Welcome to Catholic Ed for All, your weekly insight into topics of special education in Catholic schools. My name is Dr. Rolle, and I invite you to join me each week as we learn how to be more inclusive in Catholic schools and continue to live out St. John Paul II's message of open wide the doors to Christ. Many thanks go out to RCL Benziger, who is generously sponsoring this podcast. RCL Benziger enriches the worldwide Catholic community by providing the most engaging and highest quality resources, programs, and services rooted in the rich and diverse tradition of the Catholic faith. And now, on to our show. On the show today, I am joined by Dr. Tara Rolle, Associate Superintendent of the Diocese of San Jose and the Executive Director for the Drexel School System. Hello, Tara. Welcome to the show and thanks for being here.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so happy you could join us. Tara, can you please tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I've been working in Catholic schools for 15 years. My background was I started as a high school English teacher and then moved into administration and then ultimately into administration in our K-8 schools, which is my primary focus in the Diocese of San Jose. And I have got an 11-year-old daughter and a 6-month-old Labradoodle. So life is full.
And not dull. Let's just say, and not dull. Okay, I'm going to pick on you a little bit. So as a former high school English teacher, you got to share some lines from Shakespeare with me. What's your favorite line from Shakespeare that you can share with me?
Oh, well, it'll be so cliche, but before we started the show this morning, I was sharing with you that I brought my daughter to Shakespeare Under the Stars over the summer, and we had the privilege of sitting, eating our picnic, listening to be or not to be. That is the question, whether 'tis nobler in the right, and it just what a perfect setting, what beautiful language, and getting to have all of that washing over me with my daughter by my side was a pretty inspiring moment.
And let me guess, you had that far off look in your face and you were just reminiscing and getting into the moment. And was your daughter like in tune with you, or was she rolling her eyes when you were saying all these things?
I think she aimed to appreciate my incredible enthusiasm for the experience. Although I'm not sure she matched my desire to be there.
In other words, you didn't look in her direction, so you wouldn't know.
Exactly. I stayed in my own space.
So Tara, what does the job of an associate super at the Diocese of San Jose look like? Can you tell me about your job and tell me about the diocese a little bit?
Sure. So in the Diocese of San Jose, we're very blessed. We have 3 associate superintendents who make up the team under our superintendent, and we each have our areas. So one of our associates focuses on marketing and enrollment practices. One focuses on accreditation, a great deal of curriculum and the preschool licensing process. And then my role is largely focused on instruction, university partnerships, and then our work with learning analytics and data assessment across the system.
Okay, so are you a large diocese as far as Catholic schools?
So we have 26 K-8, 28, but 2 are private. So 26 diocesan K-8 schools in our diocese, and we stretch from Gilroy to Palo Alto, which with traffic can be a handful of hours in any direction.
Wow. Okay, how many high schools?
We have 5 high schools. Most of them are ordered. One of them is diocesan.
Okay, that's pretty large then. I mean, you have a pretty large school system going on right there. So tell me about the inclusive practices and the conversations that are going on in your school system as far as exceptional learners.
Absolutely. So one of the areas that we've really started paying attention to in the Diocese of San Jose is focusing on inclusive practices for Catholic schools. Our primary intention is to make sure that we are always serving the children in our communities and that any child can go to any Catholic school in their area and be served appropriately. What that has meant for us and the targeted focus on better understanding the landscape of the lived experience of students who learn differently, and then looking to make some systemic and programmatic improvements, not on a site-by-site basis, which has been the strategy in many ways. Every school has created a program to respond to the individual needs of their community. Now the landscape is shifting in such a way that our hope is, how can we create really robust, deeply resourced programs that stretch across all of our schools so that we are sure that the baseline, that moral minimum of provisions for all children, is consistent across all of our schools. So we're presently doing informal listening sessions with our parent communities, asking for their shared experience of what's been really successful for them as parents of students who learn differently in Catholic schools, where they see that we have opportunities to stretch and grow, and then looking to our administrators and our teachers to compile all of those resources and really start thinking about how can we be the best service to our families in a consistent way in all schools at all times for all kids.
So, Tara, when you're talking about these listening sessions that you're having with parents, are these parents actually, do they actually have children with exceptional needs in your school system right now, or are these listening sessions about to gather data and information from these parents to create these opportunities for these students?
So the present learning sessions are for parents who have children currently enrolled or enrolled within the last 2 years in our Catholic schools, students who learn differently and are presently served or recently served in our Catholic schools. And it's been really great. We've been doing them online during the lunch break so we can capture the maximum number of parent perspectives. They don't need to drive anywhere. They don't need to take time off work. They can truly log on their lunch break and share their experience. But it has been critical to have that voice, to have that feedback from our parents, to be able to really share with us, these are the things that the schools have done really well to support our children. These are the things we've done outside that have been really successful. And then where are those natural points of intersection where we could strengthen and grow the program?
So what lessons are you learning based on these parent sessions?
Well, I think the happy lesson that has come through pretty strongly in almost all cases is that the empathy and the desire to serve all children is clearly alive and well in our schools. So there's a great enthusiasm about inclusive practices. And there's a great deal of effort going into creating environments that are inclusive and programs that are responsive. Some of the big picture items that are coming up, which are really best practices across the board for all kids. Things like the purpose of homework. How do we make sure that everything that we're sending home is a high value, high impact? What kind of feedback is that intended to provide for students and parents? What kind of feedback is that providing for teachers? Are we sure that there's are we transparent with parents about the desired outcomes? So I would say that is one area that for all kids, but in particular for our kids who learn differently, who may have a different lived experience with homework, that transparency, that visibility, that intentionality around the practice of homework has been a really, really exciting area to start unpacking. And then the other thing that we're becoming more aware of is how we as schools could be better partners to our families by having more consolidated community resources that we can share with families as things begin to bubble up, as children are having exceptional experiences in the classroom or are having needs that are outside of what we may be able to immediately serve. How have we then consolidated resources so we can right away say to parents in our community, here are the places you can go to have additional community partners, to have additional support. So that's a real growth area for us.
No, I mean, it sounds fabulous. What kind of students with special needs does the diocese now serve? Are you serving students with learning differences, learning disabilities, autism? Can you share some of that with the audience?
Sure. So, again, school by school, depending on the current programs in place, it can vary, but the desire of the diocese is to serve all children. We know in our schools, we currently have developed some really strong practices serving students on the autism spectrum, serving children with dyslexia who have different auditory processing challenges, emotional challenges as well. I think we've really started to find some steady programs to serve those disabilities and those differences that have more regularly presented in our communities. I think for us, it's trying to make sure we're understanding are there additional populations of need that we are not aware of in our community and that we need to become aware of so we can develop programs so that we can serve them. So just because we believe we're doing an excellent job serving the children who are in our schools doesn't mean that there may not be additional children whose needs we aren't currently aware of, and that we aren't aware of them because maybe we haven't developed programs to serve them. So that's kind of the pie in the sky, I suppose, but it's making sure that we're ahead of the curve. We don't want to wait for families to have to come to us to ask, can our child be part of this school? We want to be proactively going into our community and saying, we welcome all children, we serve all families. Here's what we have to offer. And so making sure that we're staying completely aware of the needs of our community is a major priority.
That is fantastic to hear. I'm so happy to hear that you're meeting the needs of these learners. It's a very universal design for learning approach that you have there, Tara. You're not being reactive, you're being proactive.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And we are. We are really making sure that we're holding ourselves accountable for providing the best possible service. And where we're missing the mark, we want to have honest and candid conversations about that and then push ourselves to move forward to reconcile those needs.
Okay, so how are we meeting those needs? If I can ask, do you have special education teachers in your school system? Are you providing professional development? Yes, no, all of them. How are you meeting these needs? Because this is very exciting to hear.
It is exciting. I think that the way we meet the needs, again, the challenge or the opportunity is it's done very much at a site level basis. So do we have teachers with specialized backgrounds? Absolutely. Are they consistently available at all Catholic schools? They're not. And so that's part of looking to that systemic resolution to make sure that we have consistent service. And if it's not going to be consistent site to site, then how do we better articulate where families can go to get the best possible service for their child and their child's particular needs? We do a good amount of professional development and professional learning around supporting all learners. And I would say in the Drexel schools in particular, because we use data-informed station rotation, there's a significant amount of time spent developing differentiated lessons, multiple pathways to key learning objectives. And so we found in the Drexel schools in particular, our very methodology that we have that's standard across all of our schools and all of our classrooms, particularly in core instruction, is designed in such a way it actually captures the best possible learning for all children. And that has been an area that we've been able to really regularly develop in our teachers, to really focus on using data to make instructional decisions, making instructional decisions not for whole groups, but rather for small groups, flexible learning stations, adaptations in the way we approach instruction and receiving information, and then ultimately looking at how do we use small groups and different frameworks to make sure that every child is getting the maximum learning experience possible every day in the classroom.
Awesome. So when we look at your leaders in your schools right now, is it more of a school leader-based directive that they're saying, okay, we have this family, I think we can meet their needs, or is it coming more from the school system itself saying these parents wish to go there, let's see how we can meet their needs, or is it a combined effort? How are we getting those families serviced in those schools?
I would say in the Diocese of San Jose presently, the great majority of those conversations are localized and they're happening at the individual sites. The desired outcome would be that we could more systemically respond to those needs, more systemically promote the services that we're able to offer and provide, and categorically better understand our landscape so we have a higher degree of service provided for our families. So I think we're really in that growing stage right now. We're doing a fine job, but we know we could be doing a better job. And so we're really charging ourselves forward to try to find those natural opportunities, not to take away the power of the local site to have the authority and the decision making to offer those programs and welcome those families, but rather to provide that network of support behind our local schools to say, not only can our school support your family in this way, but our diocese is committed to inclusive practices, and here is the way that we as a whole unit, a whole Catholic unit committed to education for all, approach learning and approach supporting our families.
Absolutely. So 5 years from now, where do you want your diocese to be as far as welcoming inclusive learners? Do you still want it to be school-based, or continuing school-based, or would you rather it be more diocesan-wide where schools have that ability to meet all their needs?
I think that's a great question, and the answer in some ways will depend on what we continue to learn from our families and their wants and needs in terms of the way that we interface with our schools to support the community in each particular school area. But I would say in this moment, when I look across the landscape, my personal professional desired outcome would be that there is at a minimum, that the baseline service and support for all children, for all learners, is set at a very, very high level, right? It's a very high bar, that it is set consistently across all of our schools, and that it is fully supported by the diocese, so that we are actively engaging our schools in training and promoting best practices and sourcing resources from within our community. That there is that, again, that network of support, or that backbone of support for our schools. Better best practice from my chair would be that on top of that baseline, each school then would capture their own particular gifts and talents, their own particular community, their own particular strengths, and that they would capitalize on what learning experiences that are appropriate and special to each of their schools.
Fantastic. So with that being said, the last question I'd like to ask you is, pie in the sky, what should Catholic special education look like? Not just for your Drexel school system, not just for the Diocese of San Jose or California itself, but pie in the sky, what should Catholic special education look like?
Seems to me that if we look to our church, we have the answer in many ways to that question. What our church is aimed to do is to say all are welcome, right? I mean, we regularly hear all are welcome, all are welcome. We know that in the practice of worship that is true. I believe that our schools should emulate that as well. So all children, all communities, all learning styles, all wants and needs should be welcome in our Catholic schools. In order to do that, then we need to become a community of professional practitioners who are highly advanced in our skills and in our willingness, desire, and ability to support one another and to build this vision forward. So pie in the sky, big picture, any parent of any child should be able to walk into any Catholic school and know with absolute confidence that they will be welcome and adored and supported and partnered with to help their child be the very best version of themselves that they could possibly be by the time they're done growing with us in our schools and graduate on to their future.
Fantastic answer. Fantastic. Tara, I want to thank you for joining me today on the podcast. I wish you nothing but prayers and blessings as you continue your mission as the Associate Super and the Executive Director of the school system and for the Drexel school system. And I wish you nothing but prayers and blessings. And thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much. God bless the work that you're doing as well. And I look forward to the continued opportunity to partner together.
I look forward to it as well. Well, that's it for this week. If this podcast was a blessing to you, can you please head over to iTunes and subscribe and give us a review or a rating? It really does help other Catholic educators find the podcast and use it as a resource. Thanks again to the amazing people at RCL Benziger for generously sponsoring this podcast. Check out their new resource for Catholic schools, Blessed Are We, Faith in Action, which enables teachers to share the love of Christ with children who have special needs. Visit rclbenziger.com to learn more. Join me again next time as we continue to advance God's kingdom by including all of God's children in Catholic schools and faith formation. Until then, this is Dr. Rolle Scarpio. Thanks for listening, and may God bless your day.